Welcome to the wonderful world of wine, exploring all things wine with you. We are your hosts, Kim Simone and Mark Lenzi, and you can find us on social media at The Wonderful World of Wine. Hello, friends. Welcome to the wonderful world of wine and happy holidays. We are deep into the holiday season, and happy holidays to you too, Mark.
Happy holidays, Kim. Our last show
Our
of
last show of the year.
2025.
I
Wow.
know.
And for our
So, yeah,
listeners, they know what that means, Kim, right? With the
that's
last show of the year.
that's right. Hold on. I'm trying to get my bottle taken care of here. As we are approaching New Year's, one of my favorite times of the year because we get to celebrate with my favorite style of wine, which is our bubbles. So, hang on, everybody. Did you get that?
I didn't hear anything.
You didn't hear the pop? Oh
No,
no!
I didn't hear anything.
Well, I popped a
Wow.
bottle of champagne, but apparently I did it poorly in front of the microphone. So,
Well, we know Kim is the
Happy New
bubbly
Year's anyway.
queen on the show. And to get everybody ready for the New Year's, we always do the traditional all things bubbly for New Year's, where actually all year long I save up articles that I see related to champagne, prosecco, anything sparkling, so I can ask Kim these questions and she can give you tips on serving and trivia things to use on New Year's Eve when you're toasting. You can think of Kim, the bubbly queen, and talk about these subjects. So we'll get you ready for New Year's. But first, Kim, I want to mention we had an exciting news here at the end of the year. Our friends at the Italian Wine Podcast, in partnership with Kendall Jackson, nominated us top 100 wine podcasts in the world.
So cool.
So a very big honor that we were mentioned in the top 100. And we thank, again, the listeners for supporting the show and Franklin Radio for allowing us to do the show. But a great way to end 2025 with that recognition. So thank you, Kim, for again doing this show with me.
I was going to say thank you for putting up with me.
That's my line. That's my line.
I know.
Partner in wine crime.
It's mutual. It's mutual.
So this is our traditional show. So I'm just going to start, Kim, and ask you, let's start with a topic bubbly people need to know for New Year's is opening a bottle of wine safely. There was an article on VinePair, our friends at VinePair, why you should never remove the cork cage before popping that bottle. So you want to explain what this cork cage is and the proper method and why you shouldn't take the cage off and if you agree with that?
Absolutely. So this is something that I actually have just started to do myself, I would say, over the last year or two. So sparkling wine is under pressure. So there is carbonation in that bottle, but there is also pressure in that bottle. So that is why when you are opening a bottle of sparkling wine, you'll see that the closure is different than a regular bottle of wine. It doesn't have a screw cap and it doesn't have a cork that you need a corkscrew to open. It's got what we call a mushroom cork. So this is a wider cork. It's a bigger cork. It's constructed somewhat differently because it has to be stronger in order to contain the wine in the bottle that is under pressure. So in addition to having that stronger, bigger cork, it also has a metal cage that goes around the cork and tightens around the lip of the bottle. So this is to give an extra level of protection so that, say that bottle, when it's being moved and it's being shaken up a little bit, or maybe the temperature goes up a little bit higher, the pressure will increase in that bottle. And this is just an extra layer of protection so that either the cork doesn't pop out of the bottle or something else happens that the bottle will, explode or whatever. But it's mostly to retain the cork in that bottle. So there are a number of precautions that you have to take when opening a bottle of sparkling wine so that that cork doesn't prematurely come out of the bottle. As you are opening the bottle, the first step, I guess it's the second step, because the first step is you remove the metal capsule, the foil around the bottle. After you remove that foil, you now have access to the cage. And the cage is the part that you unscrew on the bottle of sparkling wine. Once you start unscrewing that cage, really anything can happen. That cork sometimes will have a mind of its own. So what I suggest to people when they're opening a bottle of sparkling wine is is as soon as you start loosening that cage, always keep your hand or your thumb or put a napkin or a towel or something over the top of that bottle so that should the cork come out of the bottle when you don't expect it to, you're at least protecting it from flying all over the place. So this is why I keep the cage on now when I open a bottle so that I don't have to remove my hand from the top of that bottle because I just, I've had too many times where something has happened where that cork has kind of gone a little haywire and it was when, you're sort of least expecting it. So it's just to make sure that it doesn't pop up and hurt somebody or you lose a lot of wine.
So I just want to review one thing, Kim. You took the foil off. Did you untwist?
Once I start to
leave
untwist,
the cage on, or once you start?
Yeah,
okay.
I always, once you start to untwist, always keep your hand on top of that bottle.
Okay.
Yep.
So the cage is free and you keep it on.
I do. Yep.
Okay.
And you just keep one hand on top of the cork and then your other hand on the base of the bottle and gently twist the base of the bottle and not the cork itself. So twist from the bottom and then ease out the cork with your other hand.
Just a little kiss, they say. But it's
Just
New
some
Year's,
things.
so if you want to get rid of the
Wanna make a
blast
little
it all over
noise,
the
go ahead.
place, you can take it off a little harder and let off more foam if you want. So related to that, Kim, you talk about this opening. It's always, to me, I'm still afraid. I get nervous doing it. I've had accidents where I've been doing demonstrations, opening it. I didn't chill it enough and it goes all over the place. And everybody in my home seems to be afraid to do it. And they let me, I'm sure the same with you. They let you do it, right?
Yeah, it can be a little intimidating to open up that bottle of bubbly.
And there's a lot of pressure in there. It's like 2 times the car tire pressure.
Yeah, it's like,
So,
it can be pretty intense.
so there was an article in foodandwine.com that said there's a new gadget out there, Kim, called the Sham Pop. It's an Australian invention. It's a cork removal device. And it's only $12, but interesting, it's this device you put over, you take the foil, undo the cage, leave it on, but then you put this device over it. And interesting, Kim, they showed twisting the cork and the device and not even touching the bottle. So did you take a look at the video on that at all? Curious your thought.
I didn't. I don't have any experience with this new device at all.
It just
I'm kind of
totally
old school. It's like I
yeah.
don't know why you would need an extra device to take a cork out of a bottle, and especially champagne or other traditional method sparkling wines. I feel like that thing wants to come out of the bottle, and there's really no need for.
And they were kind of promoting that too because it covers the cork. It's another safety way to basically of keeping your hand on it. And if you draw it easy, you get the hiss, but you could also blast the cork right out. So it's kind of a weird thing. I don't know. But we were on that topic, so I stayed with it. Okay, so there's a lot of news this year, Kim, or there has been in 2025, that there are a lot of counterfeit champagnes out there in the wine world. And glassofbubbly.com had this article. What are you hearing about counterfeits? Is the champagne world nervous about this? And how do our listeners know they have the real McCoy this New Year's?
So this topic is not specific to champagne. There's actually been a lot in the news recently about counterfeit wine in general. And it's kind of wild to me because some of the wines that people are talking about being counterfeited are things like Yellowtail out of Australia and like things that aren't these prestige types of bottles. So, I think the takeaway is that almost anything for wine will be counterfeited if somebody gets it in their mind to make a fake version of something. I don't know what to say about what a consumer should look for. Just go through, a reputable retailer and you will get the real deal. But I think as the channels for getting items become a little bit more loosey-goosey, like as if we order online or like direct through some middleman kind of sales site, then that opens you up for more of these counterfeits. But I feel like if you go through the traditional channels where the wine industry and certainly the government, because they want their taxes, are involved, then your likelihood of getting something fake probably goes down pretty much.
Yeah, don't buy your New Year's bubbly out of some guy's trunk in the McDonald's parking lot. Is
Exactly,
kind of a tip.
exactly.
You know what drew my attention to counterfeits in the liquor world in
Yeah.
general was I saw a story about Johnny Walker Red, which is the number one selling whiskey in the world.
Uh-huh.
And there's more Johnny Walker Red on the market than they actually produce. So it was saying that there's just all these counterfeits. They're finding more than they actually making, and it's
But
still
like
the number
where
one.
where is that coming from? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
not
it's so.
okay, that let me step back. It's not where is it coming from? It's like
How
where
do they
are
do it?
people buying this?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, is
Why
there a
would you buy?
possibility of you getting counterfeit bottles of things when you are going through your official channels as
Yeah.
a beverage retailer? Does it start at a level that is kind of up the food chain from you? I don't know. It's very confusing to me. And I've read a lot of articles about counterfeit wine, and it makes sense to me when you are buying in a secondary market. So, oh God,
Yeah,
what's the
you're
word?
not going to see it in a three-tier state because they control the product they're getting.
Right,
They
that's
they
what I'm
should
saying.
they
But
should
if
know
there's
that.
all of this in the market, then I mean, we're all three tier
Yeah,
states.
I think it's other
So,
parts of the world, to be
oh,
honest
okay.
with you.
All
I
right.
think Italy had an issue with counterfeits.
Okay, interesting. What's
Uh,
what
yeah,
Oh my God, like Sotheby's auction houses. Yeah. So
yeah,
like if you're buying something from in an
reputable.
auction, or if you are buying it from somebody who had purchased it and it's been in their collection or in their cellar and then they're selling it to you. That's a secondary market that I think is much more open to that kind of a thing. But like I don't understand where the heck people are getting counterfeit bottles of Yellowtail, like frankly.
And all the education you had by the champagne people, did they ever like educate you on how to find it, or it's an issue,
No,
or they
so
no, they didn't even want
not
to talk about it.
No, not about that kind of counterfeit. The only thing that we really focused on was the misuse of the name champagne. But those are the kind of things that are really easy to see. Those are okay, this is a perfume that is called champagne. It's like, well, it's perfume, it's not wine. Not somebody trying to pass off a fake bottle of, say, Dom Perignon as the real deal.
Well, that works right into one of my questions I had for you. An article
Very
I
good.
saw, Kim,
Let's do it.
talking about the naming and the protection of champagne.
Yes.
There was an article in the manual.com about an outside champagne producer or sparkling producer that can use champagne on the label. It was a New Jersey winery. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it right. Pernod in New
I
Jersey.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the pronunciation on that.
And in the 1870s, they got special permission from the Champagne region to use champagne and are still able to
Mm-hmm.
use it. And a lot of times, listeners have heard you say the difference between the big C and the little c. Can
Right.
you explain that and how it relates to this
Yeah,
story?
so Champagne is a region in France known for their sparkling wine. And they, over, the last 250 years or so, were the ones who really came up with all of the innovations that make champagne sparkling wine the way that we know it today. And it became so popular that the word champagne became sort of a byword for sparkling wine. So, like, in other parts of the country, people refer to soda just as Coke, or, a Q-tip is a cotton swab. We just call them Q-tips or Kleenexes or whatever. So, over time, because champagne was like the pinnacle of this particular style of wine, lots of people just referred to sparkling wine as champagne. But the region really doesn't approve of this use of their name because they feel like it waters down the authenticity of their product. And so they really don't want anybody using the word champagne unless it refers to their region or their sparkling wine. However, because so many places in the world have been making sparkling wine for so long, and like this place in New Jersey, have put the name champagne on their label, there are certain producers who have been kind of grandfathered along and have been allowed to continue to use the name. Now, they can only really use it in certain situations. So it's more like if there is an American producer of sparkling wine that the region, 100 years ago, like you're saying, allowed them to use the name, they can still use it, but pretty much only for their local distribution. So if this place in New Jersey wants to sell their wine in, say, Canada or England or Italy, they will no longer be allowed to use the word champagne. champagne on the label. They can really only use it for selling domestically or in their own local market.
And what was the thing about the little capitalization of it?
Oh, so I use little c to mean sort of generic sparkling wine when people use the name, the word champagne to refer
Okay,
to.
so it's not,
Yeah.
they don't see lowercase,
No.
uppercase.
That's
Okay.
a me thing.
We just want to clear that up for the
Yeah, that's
listeners
a me
because you
thing.
use it a lot, so I
I
wanted to
do.
make
I do.
sure.
Little C versus big C. Yeah. So
Yeah.
big C champagne referring to the region and then the wine as it is associated with that
Okay.
specific region.
All right. So now people are having guests over. There was an article in the takeout.com and it said, how many bottles of bubbly do you need to serve 100 guests? So I'm sure a lot of our listeners out there are not having 100 people over on New Year's. So just give a little serving recommendation. The 750 milliliter bottle, the standard
Yep.
sparkling wine, how many guests, how pours, etc. for.
So a standard champagne flute is smaller than a regular wine glass. So when you are figuring out how much sparkling wine to have for, say, a toast, you usually can estimate that a bottle will serve more people than a standard size bottle of wine. So say you're planning a wedding, right? Or a New Year's Eve party. We generally like to say that you'll get 4 to 5 glasses of wine out of a 750 milliliter bottle for just standard table wine. Sparkling wine, you can get a little bit more. So if you're just pouring a few ounces for a toast or for a tasting, you can really get anywhere from, I kind of estimate it like eight pours, 8 glasses out of each of those bottles instead of 5 or 6. You can probably push it up to 10, but I feel like that's cutting it kind of close. Chances are, if you have 100 people over for a party and you want to have enough for a toast, a lot of those people will have a couple of sips. You'll have a toast, Happy New Year's, hurrah. Not everybody is going to want an additional pour of that sparkling wine. Now, there are some people like me who will be drinking it all night long, so I need my own bottle. But I would say for just a toasting pour or a tasting pour, you should be good with, say, 8 to 10 pours out of a bottle, but then have extra on hand for people who want to continue to drink that wine.
Yeah, I think my tip on that is I learned keep the foam down and you can get a lot more out of the bottle. If you're
Yeah, that's why I
pouring,
generally say like 10.
yeah.
Especially if you have small glasses, because a lot of champagne flutes are really not that big. So,
So you're talking
three
yeah,
ounces or so each.
you're talking about toasting. What if
Yeah.
you're having this as a pairing with your New Year's Eve dinner?
Then
And
I
you want
would,
to get
yeah,
four
then I would
pours out of the
say
bottle?
the same amount. I would say like you'll get 5 pours out of a bottle.
Yeah.
Yep. And the trend these days is to use a little more of a standard wine glass for your bubbles and not necessarily a tall champagne flute. Because if you use something that has a little bit of a wider bowl, you can get more of the aromatics out of the champagne or out of the sparkling wine than you would in a flute.
You're listening to The Wonderful World of Wine, and we are your hosts, Mark Lenzi and Kim Simone. Today, exploring all things bubbly with you for New Year's. Our program is supported by Franklin Public Radio. You can find out all about us on our website, thewww.wine, and find us on social media. Just search The Wonderful World of Wine. So we're back getting everybody ready to celebrate New Year's, talking all things bubbly with Kim, a collection of articles that I found all year that I hold and don't show Kim until our New Year's episode.
I call this the Mark Peppers Me with Champagne Questions episode.
To get the listeners ready for New Year's, you're out shopping for champagne or bubbly, or you have questions, or you just need conversation with people on New Year's. This is the topic, right? You say, hey, Kim mentioned how to open a bottle. You're doing that wrong or something of that nature. So let's see, Kim, where are we going to go next? How about this article that was about what do airlines do when they open a bottle of champagne? What do they do with the rest of it? And there was another related article on how can you safely fly with bubbly on your checked luggage, which I know you have. So
I have.
what do you think about what do the airlines do with the leftover bubbly and why?
So altitude is really hard with wine. So not only does flying affect your taste buds, but it also affects the pressure in the bottle. So you do have to be, I think, a little more careful when you are either traveling with sparkling wine or consuming sparkling wine up in an airplane. I don't remember specifically what airlines do with bottles once they open.
They just dump them
They
because
dump
the
them.
carbonation goes faster
Yeah,
because
that's
of
what
the
I was gonna
pressure.
say. The bubbles just really don't last once you open those bottles.
I've
It's
personally
hard.
never
It's really
sat
hard
in
to
first class to get any
no.
sparkling wine. So, yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't just use the minis and then it's a glass, but
Yeah.
I don't
But
know.
so many of the not for sparkling wine. I was gonna say so many mini bottles are in plastic, but not for bubbly wine.
Yeah,
They're
not
not.
the good stuff. So
No.
what about flying with you? You go someplace, you're in Champagne, you want to bring a bottle home. I know you've done this. Is it
I
safe to
have.
put it in your checked luggage? Does anything happen to it pressure wise, or does it still
So it
taste
is
okay?
generally safe to put it in your checked luggage. Just like flying with any other type of wine, the glass bottle is definitely something that you have to take into consideration because your luggage might be around a little bit and you want to make sure that everything is protected in there. I don't do anything different with my sparkling wine when I'm traveling with it, if I'm coming home with a suitcase, than I do with a bottle of still wine. I do usually put it in some sort of a plastic bag just in case something happens, but that capsule and that cage around the top of the bottle is pretty sturdy. And because that glass is so thick, even though there will be this pressure variation as you're going up in an airplane and then down in an airplane, it should still withstand the pressure inside the bottle. But I also will sometimes put it in like an extra layer of plastic bag just to make sure that should an accident happen, then I won't have champagne all over my clothes.
So if our listeners for the holidays, someone's at their house, just came off a plane with a bottle of bubbly,
So
should
if you
not.
just came off the airplane, you do need to let that bottle rest a little bit. But we say the same thing about other bottles as well, that sometimes there can be this, we quote unquote call it travel sickness for wines, that they need a little bit of time to kind of calm down and reacclimate themselves to land instead of being
Yeah.
in the air. So I wouldn't necessarily open up a bottle of bubbly right after it has traveled. And we even do this for like wine tastings at the wine school and stuff like that. Like if a wine has just arrived, we try to give it a little bit of time to calm down and just sort of become itself again before we open it up, because that it does it can impact the flavor of the wine.
Okay. So now, Kim, I'm going to hit you with a bunch of articles at once that combined a lot of bad news about champagne this year. First off, they said sales in 2024 were down 9%. So last year, down 9%, down approximately 55 million bottles over 2 years. They're saying Prosecco is to blame. People don't want to celebrate, so they're not drinking bubbly.
Yeah, I had heard that one.
And it's becoming too expensive. So,
Yep.
what is Kim's Bubbly Queen's comments on all this news?
So I think a lot of that is probably true, but it's a combination of things. I'm not going to put the blame on Prosecco because I feel like there is room in the market for different styles and different price points. You are going to be hard pressed to find a bottle of Prosecco and a bottle of champagne that are even in the same price point as each other. There's not much for true French champagne in the market that you, the average everyday consumer, are going to be able to find for under, I would say, $35 a bottle. Whereas most Proseccos are kind of hitting in the under 20. So different market, different, I feel like they fulfill different needs out there. And to some extent, I feel like champagne has kind of priced itself out of what works for a lot of people. I mean, it's pretty expensive and it's not for most people an everyday sort of beverage. It's a celebratory thing. So if once a year you buy a bottle of champagne,
Now's the
that's one
time.
thing. Yeah, now's the time, certainly. But I think it is viewed so universally as more of a luxury luxury product. And as the prices continue to go up for the wines, it's only going to continue to do so.
Yeah, it's frustrating for me as a retailer that it seems like every time I order the big brands, 50 cents, a dollar.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. And there's some tariff things happening here that I think have impacted the French wines as
Yeah.
well.
I
So,
think that's part of it too. But I mean, part of it I do feel is that the region is trying to hold on so tightly to their place in the market as a luxury item. And that they feel that if they were to lower the prices of champagne, people would think that maybe it's less sophisticated, it would lose some of its cachet, I guess. I don't know if that is a well-placed concern or not, but I do feel like it is pricing a lot of
yeah,
people
it's
out
an
of being
image
able
to
to enjoy it.
uphold, right?
Yeah,
It's an
yeah,
image.
it's an
Yeah.
image thing. It's an image thing,
Yeah.
and not necessarily. I mean, okay, I will say it is an expensive style of wine to make because there are layers of complexity to the making of the wine. So there are many extra steps that go into making sparkling wine and especially champagne, in addition to the aging of the wine. So a lot of champagne is held in reserve at the wineries themselves. So they have years and years and years of backstock at the winery, either because the wine needs to be aged for a significant amount of time before it reaches its style potential, or because it is a wine that doesn't necessarily have a vintage on it. So most champagnes are a blend of different years. They have to hold a certain amount back from previous vintages in order to make the more current vintage, because they have to blend some of these older wines in there. So, there's a lot of this wine on reserve at the wineries, and it's really expensive to hold on to a lot of your product. So there are situations for champagne that are different than other wines, but I feel like something's got to give, frankly.
Well, I know you love it, and I'm a wine geek, but I only have it once a year, and that is New Year's, and
Yeah.
I can get it at cost. So,
Yeah.
if that tells you something, right? Okay, so
And
next, Kim, say our listeners now it's New Year's Eve or holidays, and they don't have any bubbly, but they have a soda stream device. There was an article in Tasting Table asking, can I just put my still wine in a soda stream and create my own bubbly? First, Kim, do you have a soda stream, or have you heard of this? Or...
not only do I have a soda stream, I've actually tried this.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
wow. So tell our listeners what happened, because they're saying a lot of negative stuff that don't do this.
It made a giant mess of my kitchen, I
So
have to say.
that
Yeah.
rumor is true.
That rumor is true. So they do say on your soda stream, only carbonate water. And I have to say, they're right. So I have tried this.
Viscosity or
I'm not sure technically what the reason is, but
sugar?
even when you have a soda stream bottle, right, there's like a level that you fill the water up to. And when you ordinarily carbonate your water, when you add the bubbles, it sort of foams up a little bit inside the bottle, but it doesn't like go over. If you do that with anything other than water, it immediately like foams everywhere and you make a giant mess. And even when you try to like low fill the bottle, it still kind of gets everywhere. So it must have something to do with, maybe it's viscosity, maybe it's, I don't know. Lots of things are way more complicated or complex than water.
Did your unit work after you tried it?
Yes, it still did.
Okay, good. That's good.
So I didn't break it. but
All right.
but it was not a successful experiment,
So
let me
don't
say.
try that at home.
Yeah,
Kim
don't try it.
does not recommend.
Too bad.
Okay, so next, Kim, I saw a story. It was in winesearcher.com, and it's saying that the Champagne region is using more herbicides like Roundup than ever. In the wine world, I've heard people have to use this if they've had tough weather. They had a wet spring. So what's your feedback on they're using chemicals a lot now, Kim, in Champagne? And should our listeners be worried as they're sipping it and listening to this?
So this article did specifically talk about herbicides, right?
Yeah.
So and herbicides are used for killing other plants, so weeds. So we're not talking about like fungal diseases. We're not talking about molds. We're not talking about bugs. We're talking about weeds. This one I kind of had to scratch my head a little bit for
Well,
because
if they had a wet spring, it would grow more weeds too. It doesn't mean.
well, yeah, but they do a whole lot with like cover crops and different ground cover and
So you feel it's not on the grapes. It's not on the vines. It's on other things in the
no,
thing.
I question the use of herbicides in general because usually when I at least hear from the folks in the region, weeds are not really a concern. So I don't
So
know.
it,
I was a
so it
little
could,
baffled by this one.
so then it must have been to protect the crop
From what?
from mold. They don't use that for mold. They
You
use
don't use
fungicides for
herbicides. You
mold,
use
right?
fungicides for mold. You don't
Yeah.
use herbicides for mold.
Interesting. Yeah. So maybe the article
So
is just totally baloney.
I don't know, but I was a little confused by that one
Yeah, that's
because,
confusing
in
me.
all of my education about champagne, one of the things they really don't worry too much about is weeds, frankly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So I
I
don't
was
know.
thinking when I was reading the article that they had a wet spring, their farmers, their crop is at risk, so they had to use some chemical to protect it so they could get a crop,
Well,
which I've
and I
heard many
totally buy
times.
that for like the like a fungal issue
Yeah,
or things like that. But weeds, they even
makes
have like sheep
sense.
and stuff to
See?
to eat the weeds. So
So
I don't know.
continue drinking the bubbly on
Yeah,
New Year's. Don't
yeah,
worry. Okay.
and
So
yeah.
another thing we wanted to follow up, you mentioned earlier when you open a bottle of bubbly, it has that beautiful non-sustainable foil that they wrap around the cage. And there's a lot of talk that the Champagne region was battling legally with the EU because the EU said it should be optional for a producer to put that foil on the bottle. Maybe they
Hmm.
want to be sustainable. And Champagne was fighting it and saying they wanted to use it. Right? They
Yeah.
wanted to require it, but then they stopped fighting it, Kim. So, what's your thoughts? Why would they not want to fight that if they felt strongly that they wanted it required?
Yeah, so I think that this is a struggle between trying to be traditional and sticking to the way that things have kind of always been done in Champagne versus this commitment that the region has tried to make for itself for sustainability and being better for the environment. So I think there's this little bit of a struggle of not wanting to change and not wanting to take away something that has always been a part of what the wine is all about. Probably a lot of it is aesthetics too, because at least for a wine that has just a cork. You can make a bottle with a regular wine cork for a regular still wine and not have like a foil capsule on it and still make it look, kind of sleek and cool. I don't know that they have come up with a way to make a champagne bottle without the capsule, but when you still see the cage and you still see the cork, how to make that look sort of streamlined and nice. It's almost like the capsule is there in order to cover that cage. So
Yeah.
I think
Is there
that
more
this is
airspace
kind
in
of
a
more
champagne?
aesthetics, huh?
Is there more airspace from the cork to the juice
Um,
in a champagne bottle? It seems like the neck is a little longer, so there might be a little bit more
yeah.
space there,
There might be. Yeah,
but you
that
can't
might be
tell
part
because
of
of
it too.
the foil.
Yeah. And the foil is usually pretty long
Yeah.
for a bottle of champagne. Like it goes down almost to kind of the shoulders of the bottle. So I think a lot of it is aesthetic, but then they're also sort of struggling with, well, we really do want to be more sustainable. So this could be an easy thing to get rid of, but they're just trying to figure out like how do we do it and still make it look good.
You're so right about the look. I've had customers
Yeah.
actually pick up a bottle that doesn't have the foil on it and say, this is
Yeah.
defective.
Yeah,
The
something's missing.
packaging is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look appealing. So why would you want to have a $40, $50 bottle of champagne
Yep.
missing that foil? It's the tradition of peeling the foil off before you loosen the cage. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So
I
it'd
mean,
be
I
interesting
remember
to see if
when
any
like
hits the shelves.
yeah. Oh, I don't know. And I have a feeling too that because there are so many parts of the champagne production method that are codified in law for the region, that they would like literally have to change the rules in order to like not have a capsule on there because it's
Yeah.
probably part of the you can't call yourself champagne if you don't have the capsule on the bottle. So they would have to change some rules at some point.
Yeah. I can
Yep.
understand. There's a
They're
lot of
very,
other related
very.
things like that in the world where, like Prosecco, DOCG, they can't use crown caps. They have to use the traditional cork, or they
Oh,
to be
okay.
DOCG Prosecco. So
Because I
I've seen that.
remember there being some brands of Prosecco that have, or maybe that had, a crown cap, like a beer
Yeah,
cap.
it can't be DOCG
Can't be the
by
DOCG. Okay.
law. So
I did not know that.
yeah.
Hmm.
All right. So let's see. The last question I'm going to hit you with, Kim, is people are now sipping on this champagne and they probably, because it doesn't say on it, have any idea what the grapes are. And
Hmm.
there's been talk recently about a new approved grape added to the big three, but there's also 8 now official grapes, correct? That can be in that bottle of
Three,
champagne.
four, five, six, seven, eight. Yes. But one of them, there is still sort of a caveat. So one of them is still experimental. So it is being used for some champagnes, but not that you will see necessarily in the market yet.
Is that the pink Chardonnay or is that the R? Is it Arbonne? Arban?
No, our ban is allowed.
Arban is allowed. Okay.
I'm talking about Voltis.
Oh,
That's
that's
the
another one.
experimental one. Yes.
What about this one? I'm seeing pink Chardonnay. Have you heard of this?
I have not heard of pink Chardonnay.
Supposedly it's a new approved grape. This was just a recent article. So technically there's could be 9
So I
grapes.
guess
But
9. Yes.
so what's someone has Blanc de Blanc champagne.
Yep.
It's Chardonnay. Noir is Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier. Those are the big 3, right?
Those are the big 3. But back to your Blanc de Blanc comment. So there are, so let's see, 7 plus maybe this other Chardonnay that are approved for use in the region. Probably 99.3% of the grapes that go into Champagne will be either Chardonnay or Pinot Noir or a related grape called Meunier. And they're pretty evenly divided. There's a little bit more Pinot Noir in the region than there is the other 2, sorry. Chardonnay is the only white of the big 3. The other 2 are red grapes, but those 4 minor grapes that make up less than 1% of what is planted in the region are also all white grapes. So there is always the possibility that your Blanc de Blanc champagne, and that just means white from white, so a white wine made from white grapes, could be Chardonnay and then any tiny little amount of these other white grapes. So Arbonne is one of them. Pinot Gris is allowed. So there are some other of these white grapes that can be possibly found in your blend of champagne.
I'm going to tell you what disappoints me with champagne, Kim. And I like the rosé. I like the pink champagne, but I never really get a strong red wine flavor.
Yeah.
It's very, very subtle, even more subtle, I think, than rosé wine. Is there a traditionally made bubbly that is pink or rosé that you feel has a very fruity, will suit that person who doesn't want the yeasty traditional taste, but it has more fruit to it?
So you mean specifically from the Champagne region?
Exactly. Oh no, let's get out of champagne. Any traditionally made bubbly anywhere in the world
That
that's
has, like,
fermented
more of that
in the bottle
red
that has more
character.
fruit to it
Yeah.
than the traditional.
So,
'Cause
I mean, there
I find
are.
people don't.
What about sparkling Shiraz from Australia?
There you go. Yes, exactly. you, you're right. That
But
is
I
one.
was going to say there are some rosé champagnes that have a really dark, almost like a fuchsia kind of a color. So there are some smaller producers out there, and I'm not like talking like the big brands that are
Yeah.
easily found. There are some of the little guys out there that do make some very interesting rosé champagne that
What's
has
the
much
legal
more.
maximum they can put of red grapes in? Can they do 100%?
100%. Oh, totally.
They
That's
can.
what
Okay.
that's what a Blanc de
But
Noir would be.
it seems like they use a little amount, no?
So there's 2 different ways that you can make rosé champagne. So you can have your base wine be mostly white wine, and you can blend in some Pinot Noir or some Meunier and give it just like a little bit of a color. But then there's also the Saignée method, so the bleeding method, where you've got the maceration of the skins and the grape juice together. And that's usually cold maceration that happens before the fermentation. And you can get a lot of color out of the grapes by doing that method. It's not as common as the blending of the white and the red to make the pink, but there are some producers that do it and that do make a much darker color. But yeah, you can totally make 100% red grape. And I don't think that there are any laws about like what the percentage of how much red you put into a blended champagne to make a pink one. Not that I've heard anyway.
Okay.
So,
well,
yeah,
I
there we
think
go.
our listeners are now ready to celebrate the holiday New Year's with some bubbly, right? We're thirsty now for some bubbly.
That's right.
We want to open it up. Hopefully it'll make some sound, unlike when Kim opened tonight here.
I tried.
The last time you opened one, we were able to capture it, but
Yeah?
she did open a bottle.
I did.
So end of another year, Kim. I want to wish you and all our listeners happy holidays, happy New Year, happy and healthy 2026. We have already a lot planned for the new year, and we will continue to bug our listeners with our wine thoughts. So I want to
Well, happy New Year to you, Mark, and happy New Year to all of our listeners as well. Thank you for listening to us today on The Wonderful World of Wine. We have been your hosts, Kim Simone and Mark Lenzi. We are supported by Franklin Public Radio in Franklin, Massachusetts. You can find us on all social media at The Wonderful World of Wine. Our website, which has our past episodes on it, is thewww.wine, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2026. Cheers! Wine, wine.